everyone. Good morning and happy Friday. Well, it's morning for me. I'm in Central Time, and it feels like it's been forever. I know the last person I had on was Kathy Ryan from Flex Automation, and she stood in for me because I had a last minute cancellation. But I'm super excited today because I have Sara Hanks. Sara, hello. How are you doing?
Hello, Megan. I'm great. How are you? I'm so happy to be here today.
I'm doing well. I feel like I'm like running at a fast pace because over the last few months it's been crazy for me. So I just feel like I haven't been able to catch up, but I'm super excited to have you. I've known you for some years now, probably around 2 years now, and I met you in person for the first time at the Women Manufacturing Summit last year. You
Yep.
actually spoke there, so super excited that I got the chance to meet you because it's different when you meet people on LinkedIn and then you kind of get a sense of their personality, but I feel like that face-to-face communication is really beneficial, and it's just a lot more fun to
Yeah.
see people in person. So
I
super
got
excited to have you here. I want to talk about you first and get some background information from you. To anyone who's tuning in, feel free to drop questions and comments in the comment section as we're talking. And if you have a question for Sara, make sure to drop those in the comments as well. LinkedIn does kind of have a lag, so if I don't respond to you right away, it's probably because of that, or because Sarah's just really getting into the conversation and I don't want to interrupt her. So feel free to drop in a hello, tell us where you're from. But Sara, how did you get involved with this crazy world of manufacturing? And I'm saying crazy as a good thing, not a bad thing, because there's a lot going
yeah,
on, and you seem to be more on the data side of things,
sure.
if I'm correct in saying that. So tell us where you started off and how you got involved with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as a kid growing up, I was naturally gravitated towards your math and science. My father was an engineer at Xerox, and so it was very natural for me to pursue that path. So I went to college at University of Buffalo with a degree in mechanical engineering. And out of school, I was recruited by this great company, Electric, right? This is back when Jack Welch was still the CEO. It was known to be the greatest company to start in. They had the most renowned leadership training program. And I thought at that point in time, I wanted to be an engineer. So I went through the interview process, I got recruited, but I think the moment that I discovered manufacturing was during the interview. I had an opportunity to take a tour of the facility where they make locomotives. And I saw a locomotive being lifted by a crane and moved to a different workstation. And at that moment, I knew that I needed to be involved in manufacturing to picture something so massive and so impressive and something that you see every day, um, actually being in the process of being built and have that much weight overhead. I mean, not overhead because obviously we're not underneath it, but that was the pivotal moment for me. When I joined General Electric, I learned very quickly that engineering was not my path. I did 2 out of 4 6-month rotations in engineering, and that was enough for me. And after that, I pivoted into Lean Six Sigma black belt type role, and I fell in love with continuous improvement. And I would say that that's really my lane even today. I love the idea of making things better and evaluating what is the next thing to make something better. In my career, I would say I had two significant opportunities. The first one was getting to digitally transform the quality management system at a company, starting from we had 27 different applications, we had 11 quality systems, and being able to identify a standard way to do things across all of these businesses, create an IT system to manage those processes, and then implement that. And where I get into the sourcing side of things is we extended our quality system out into our supply chain. And so through that process, we now have a complete communication channel of requirements out to suppliers, them being able to meet those requirements, and then also go through the follow-up activity of making sure that they're conforming to those standards going forward. After doing all of that, I shifted to data analytics and getting into machine learning and AI way before it was cool. Back in the day when everybody was terrified of anything related to machine learning and modeling. And I did that for a number of years. And, and that takes us to where, well, it takes us about 4 years ago, when that chapter closed, which was actually during COVID.
Yeah, and the thing is like I think people are shocked to know or hear if like they're new to the industry or they don't know much about manufacturing stuff. Artificial intelligence has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And like we're just now starting to see the massive benefits that it provides, especially when you're trying to digitally transform your machine shop or your factory floor to be smarter and more efficient and like I don't think people understand the amounts of data that we are starting to collect on even the smallest of shop floors just from one single machine. And I know that there's a lot of new positions and not a lot of new careers available for even younger generations or current generations to pursue to kind of like sort all of that information out and make sense of it. Because it can be very overwhelming if you're not like used to that amount of data. We do have a couple people. We have Amy saying hello, happy Friday. And then Anthony. Hi, Anthony. How are you? I had no idea. I just jumped the wagon. But I do want to talk about more with leverage for data. So you do have a couple things on LinkedIn. Leverage for data isn't the only thing that you're involved with, but that's something that you just like started, correct? Like you just started that company?
Sure. So I want to preface this. I do work full time.
Yeah.
Leverage for Data is my company that I started it actually in 2020.
Okay.
When COVID hit, I had a little extra time or a lot of extra time. I'd also been part of a reorganization and my life looked a little differently than the work I was doing had changed. And I wanted to stretch myself in a new way. Through my experience of implementing software and then dealing with the data on the back end and trying to build predictive models based on that data, the one thing that I discovered is that a lot of the software solutions that existed in the market are meant to put data in. And they're not necessarily caring too much about the user experience, at least within the manufacturing space. And the challenge with that is if it's hard to capture data, it is not going to be captured very well. It is not necessarily going to be very accurate. And unfortunately, when you're in that situation, trying to do something with that data through analytics or machine learning, it's very, very difficult to clean and prepare the data. And you may not even have enough of it to do anything with. And so what I wanted to see is software that was intuitive and easy to implement. And I started actually thinking that I needed to do everything myself because naturally that's
I think that's such a woman thing to do. Like, I don't mean to like be stereotypical, but like a lot of us just, I don't know if it's like us trying to just be like, we can do this. Like, yeah. And then we're just afraid to ask for help or like,
I think it's both.
It's just, why do we got to stop doing that?
We do. I spent 9 months of my life trying to cram Udemy courses on full stack web development.
And I bet the first person you were like finally asked for help, they were just like, why didn't you ask me before? Like,
I found a partner. Imagine that.
Yeah. So yeah, talk a little bit more about what leverage for data is then and how you're really helping companies solve some of the issues that they're running into.
Sure. So I think one of the biggest problems is when you're dealing with this. So Leverage for Data is a company that's built a software solution that's meant to help manufacturing companies interface in a very clean way with their supply chain. Okay. When I mean clean, it's workflow based. It's very clear who does what and when is it due, and is it done correctly, and you can measure all of these things. That's the benefit of a workflow system. So the challenges that it solves is, what's the status of my new product introduction with my suppliers?
Okay.
Are they late? If they're late, can we escalate? Can we get data from them early so I don't discover that I have a bad part after I receive it? If they have questions, they can ask through the system, and that conversation's not buried in email. I had statistics. I don't know why I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I want to say it's a very, very low percentage of new product introductions that launch on time within the supply chain. And there is a very high percentage that has a rework associated with it.
Okay.
And so if you want to bring new products to market and you're dependent on your supply chain to help you do that, you need them to be on time and you need them to be good. And through a workflow-based system that has collaboration capability and data, you can understand where things are at quickly, and you can make sure things get done on time and that they get done correctly.
I feel like this is something that might have been inspired by the pandemic because, and correct me if I shouldn't say that, but like I think a lot of our eyes were open during that time because like our supply chain just got so messed up through that. And
it
what
was
I'm
years.
what I'm hearing about this is kind of like a platform where maybe, is it fair to say that maybe your customers can bounce back a lot quicker or easier after something like that happens? Would that be this type of platform? That's super cool.
Yes.
You know what I should do? I should invite you back to actually do a demo to like show your platform if you want to do that. We should probably. Sure. I probably should have asked you to do that. But I didn't think about it. This is what happens.
It's okay.
Yeah. So we got Mike on here. Hey, Megan, great episode. Super cool software and use case there. I'd love to chat sometime. Mike, I'm just kidding. So Mike is part of Shop Floor Coffee, which I'm a huge fan of because all of the proceeds some of the proceeds that they have for that coffee actually goes back into workforce development. So he's probably trying to hint towards upcoming partnership. And then Anthony is saying yes, and then we have Becca. Demo would be awesome. So Becca is really great because she is a technical translator, and so I know she'll have like a field day learning about all of the information and seeing how the demo works. So that's going to be an upcoming episode. Sarah and I will talk after this one and schedule that. I think that would be a really good episode to have. Maybe we can do like some sort of webinar or something about it. We can discuss later, but I do want to get into starting the business because one of the things we talked about before is like, it's stressful. Like when you want to go out on your own, like when you have that pull, because I think it is. I think it's your gut, your intuition, like telling you, hey, I can probably do something more. This is something I'm really passionate about. I feel like I have like a solution. And it's hard sometimes to make that decision because you never know if you're ready or not ready. And I don't know if this is something you went through, but for me, I was scared as hell. I was like, yeah, okay, it's a good idea, but I don't know if I can do this. And I like to be over prepared, like too prepared. And I had to have someone say, this is ridiculous. Just do it. Like, just pull the trigger. Things will come up. You'll learn from it. So I kind of went in it a little chaotic, I think, with zero strategy. And I don't know if that was the best way to do it. So when you first developed this idea, I know you mentioned before that 9 months you were trying to do everything on your own and then you found a partner. And I do want to talk about that a little later. But like, what was the main thing that was like finally like the trigger for you to say, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to go for it. Can you like explain that whole process?
Sure. Well, I think, the idea came to me at some point in 2019. And the first thing I did at that point was go through the conflict of interest and make sure my employer was aware that I was considering this. And it took me almost a year to actually start. So you talk about fear and that was it.
Yeah, because you have that cushion, right? You have that cushion of having a full-time job with someone who's paying you a salary, and then you're like, can I do
but I want to
this?
do this.
Yeah, can I do this? Is it going to make them mad?
I think too, we often define our identity as our vocation, and it's just not. And it took me a long time to come to that reality because, I'm still employed and that's a part of my life, but I also have these other aspects that are also part of my life.
But I think it's really cool that your employer has been supportive of it, because not a lot of companies will do that. So it's really cool that you have someone that's like, sure, just as long as you get our stuff done too.
And I mean, I make sure I go above and beyond. I don't just do the day job. I am very active in the women's network. I am on the steering committee. I run metrics for the company on diversity. Like, there can't be a doubt that there is a dedication there. Yeah. But that's one part of Sara. And Sara is a whole person.
Right.
And Sara believes she can make a difference with easy to use software in the world and help manufacturing companies, and to do it in a way where they can take the data, and then the analytics is easy because it was input in the best way. Right. And so I think that, but it was really a career. I had a moment where I had a job that I really loved. And when COVID hit, it was the first team to be impacted. And so that was the catalyst to get started. Okay.
So then what was your next step after you figured out if there was going to be a conflict or interest or not? Like, what did you do next?
Well, I had the approval already. So that was done. I think the next step for my business was to go figure out how to get started. And in Erie, Pennsylvania, there's a really great ecosystem for startups. And I connected with our small business development center, and they got me connected to an incubator.
Okay.
Which was really very cool. As part of an incubator, you have access to mentors. They can make connections to businesses. It was a very great opportunity. And through the incubator, I was able to participate in an accelerator.
Nice.
Now,
okay.
The accelerator was going to take more time. So again, I had to have a conversation with my manager about, I would like to do this. It is going to involve some of my daytime, but I will work these hours outside. And if you feel like I'm not present enough, we'll have a conversation. But, it's important to keep that conversation transparent, right?
Yeah. I like that you were setting up expectations for both sides. Like, here's what I'm willing to give. Here's my expectations. And then you were willing to say, okay, if you feel like I'm not meeting those, let's come together and talk. I think that's a really good thing to do, to be transparent. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say it's better than trying to have a difficult conversation later.
Yeah. So how did you find out? Because not everybody lives in Erie, Pennsylvania. So when you were starting out, did you have people tell you where to look, or did you just go online and kind of research, okay, this is what I'm trying to do, what are some of the resources, and then find all of those resources? Because I know with me in Beloit, I didn't even know we had an incubator program, and they actually reached out to me after seeing me on LinkedIn all the time. They were like, hey, we think we might be able to help your business. And I'm like, I don't really have that typical business, and I'm a freelancer, so I don't really need all of these resources that some of the smaller companies might need, because it's just me writing stuff. And then I don't know how you would help a podcast. So we did have conversations, and I was able to connect with other people, which was really helpful. But how did you find those resources? Did you go on Google and look for it? Was it something the business center gave to you? What was that process like?
So the Small Business Development Center is a national resource that's available to anybody, and there's centers all over the place.
Okay.
And I was made aware. I can't remember exactly how. I think I saw. Um, I'm I might have signed up for an event that I saw, and I ended up on their mailing list, and they had a first start 1 hour long training on how to start a business. Um,
Wow.
and I
See,
took
and I
that.
didn't know anything about this, so there you go.
It teaches you like the different legal structures and what taxes are. And it was just like the very basics of this is what
Yeah.
you need to start a business. And um, I can't remember exactly how I stumbled on it. And I am curious. I mean, Google might have been a thing. I tend to
Yeah.
be a curious person.
But that's
Um,
really helpful because all of that stuff you just named, I didn't think about any of it. And I kind of learned the hard way as I was progressing that I was like, oh, yeah, I have to think about this, this, and this because I am getting money. So, like, how do I like organize all of that? I'm still like trying to talk myself into maybe investing in some business courses just so that I can get ahead of the game and just kind of expand on obviously the lack of experience that I have in business. So I'm thinking about doing that. But then once you got connected with those resources, what was the next step after that?
so I, the, I mean, I've got into this accelerator program, and I think the accelerator program is great because they teach you a lot about thinking about the customer first. I actually did two accelerators, and one was modeled after the business model canvas, and
Okay.
but I think what I was surprised in that is they were very heavily geared towards your first goal being to get enough traction to find investors.
I like that.
And that wasn't necessarily the path I wanted to go down. I really wanted to be a bootstrap business. So, in some ways, I was a sponge and soaking up all of the things that I had to learn. And my presentation skills improved significantly because we learned how to do investor presentations. Um, and but on the flip side, I don't know that I was given enough of a push to really start to think about sales, you know. And we talked about like failures
Mm-hmm.
and also the customer itself, and how do you prepare a product that is going to be for a customer, ready for a customer, that side of it. I think that I probably did not spend enough time in those early years really investing in that.
So what were you focusing on mostly in those earlier years then? Because
Um,
I've been told that too. Like you should think about your audience. Like that was always the one that was number one when people are like, okay, who's your audience? And how are you going to get them to invest in you? Like it was always been the number one. And I'm like, man, I just wanted to start this for fun. I really wasn't thinking about any of that stuff. It's just got this idea. I wanted to roll with it. I didn't
yeah.
really think who's going to listen to me. So what were you thinking about first? Before?
I think all the other, I honestly, and even to this day, sales kind of is terrifying, right? Like actually asking for something in exchange for my product is scary.
Mhm.
So I think I focused on anything else but that. I mean, putting together um, financial projections and thinking about well, we spent a lot of time preparing for investor presentations. We spent a lot of time on that, and I don't think that that was non-value add by any means, because like I said, I'm a better
Yeah.
storyteller because of it. um, I think the biggest challenge in that era was connecting back to a problem statement, because the solution is so obvious to me
Yeah.
that when you move your business process to workflow system, you can capture data, you can drive accountability, you can have metrics to start driving improvement against. Like all of these benefits to me are intuitive. And
Yeah.
so they kept harping on, well, what's the problem you're going to solve? And I'm like, I'm going to make it easier. I don't know.
Isn't it obvious? Like,
Isn't
it's so
it obvious?
I totally get that. Mike was like, didn't mean to get a shop floor plug. Sarah, is your software platform for SMBs and larger enterprise? That's a good question to ask. Mike, it's okay. I was just giving you a hard time. You can plug Shop Floor Coffee anytime on Mavens. I think you sent me your logo. I want to include it on some of the graphics I have. So it's totally fine. I appreciate what you're doing. And we're co-sponsoring that Miles for Manufacturing run. So super excited about that at IMTS. Yes. So plug away anytime.
Cool.
So let's get to your question. Is your software / platform for SMBs and larger enterprise?
It's geared towards SMBs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can someone define that for me? Because I don't know what that
is. Businesses. Small and
Oh, I did know that. My brain just didn't turn on quick enough. And then Becca said, yes, would rather do anything other than sales here. I don't know what it is about that word. I don't know what it is, but a lot of people have like told me that I have to like be ready for sales. And I'm like, no, I don't want to hear it. And they're like, but you do sales. And I'm like, I don't do sales. I have conversations with people and I get to know them. And apparently all of this that I'm saying is part of sales. But there's something about that word that I just don't like and I freak out because my main goal is not to like, and everybody cringes when I say this. Well, a lot of people, I shouldn't say everyone, but my main goal wasn't to like make money. It was to help people and help solve their problems or help them be confident to share their stories. And as a technical writer first, I've always been fascinated with manufacturers and engineers' stories. Mm-hmm. And I knew that sharing them would help them out significantly because it was bringing awareness to the amazing things that they were doing. So when people are like, oh, you have to think about that monetary portion of it, it was really hard for me to like switch that mindset to actually like consider it sales because I just don't like it. Like I'm not trying to like, because it wasn't the goal of mine. I wanted to help people. And I understand that, like, yeah, you're an expert, you're providing a service. So you should be able to make money providing your service. But when you're doing it on your own for the first time, it's like a weird transition. I don't know if you experienced the same thing.
It's so weird. Yes. Everything you're saying just hits home. I mean, I've even missed the boat with, inbound people coming to me with questions, offering me money for my advice and me being like, oh no, it's fine. I'll do it for free.
Yeah. So we gotta stop doing that. So Emily Wilkins, I don't know if you know her. Mm-hmm. She's from Marketing Metal, and she shared this book with me. It's called Badass Your Brand.
Okay.
I don't have the offer. I think her name is like Pia or something. And she goes through the whole process of like how to build your confidence and not only like setting a price, but being confident about setting that price for your services. And then also tips on like when you get to a certain point to be confident to raise your prices. And then that way you're not just taking everything and all work that doesn't really provide value to you, but you're like bringing in the actual clients that you want to work with because they have the same like core values as you. It's a good book. You should get it.
Okay.
Definitely get it. We have a lot of comments. Mike's laughing at me. Amy, that's more of a call a chaos coordinator, not sales. I agree. And then I still do that every week. Anthony's really good at sales though. I've heard his pitch a couple of times and he's good at it. So for women who are like kind of like, because I feel like a lot of these things are kind of natural for women to feel. And I don't mean to be like gender specific or stereotypical, but I just feel like with our natural ability to like want to build stronger relationships with other people and we want to just help people, that's why we're kind of like shying away from like the sales portion of it. But you brought up some good failures as well too in our previous conversation. So do you want to go through some of that? Like, I think the first 3 years are the hardest starting your business because you're always like doubting yourself. I don't know. Like, how were your first few years of starting this company? Like, what were some of the challenges you ran into? What were some of the feelings that you were feeling? What were some of the doubts that you were having? Can you explain that whole process? Because I think that would be beneficial to anyone who's like considering it, or maybe started something and then they're like, oh, maybe I'll just quit this, because we don't want people to quit. We want them to like be confident and still going.
So I think the first, I would say, significant failure was actually both of my failures have to do with the loss of a customer.
It's hard.
That's the worst. The first one, it was the very first customer. We were introduced to them by one of the mentors as part of the incubator program.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had a personal connection to people that worked within the business, and I thought that was enough, that we could be more collaborative in the development of the product.
Mm.
And the biggest mistake that we made early on was to do a product demo that wasn't ready. And it wasn't even that it was not functionally working, but it was not impressive. And I think the lesson in that is you can't be comfortable just because you have a known relationship. You really need to show up with that A game 100%, and you need to treat them as if they were a brand new client. And that first show and tell has got to be impressive.
Right. I think there's a couple good points there too. Like, there is a line between personal and business, and it's okay if you like grew up with someone, but when it comes to business, there's certain things that you have to let go of with that personal relationship, because like you mentioned, they're a client and you got to treat them as such. And I think that's great. So with that lesson, what were some of the things that you did to really like pivot and make the next time like better or more productive?
So the first, well, the customer ghosted us. It went away. It was, and I could walk in the front door, right? Like,
yeah, that's so bad. Oh, but it happens. It happens.
It's all a lesson, and I know exactly what if I were to pinpoint the root cause, I'm really clear on what that root cause is. And so the next client we got introduced to, we were hyper focused on the user interface. Like, that was the one thing we did. So even before the bells and whistles, after we went, well, the first thing we did is go through a process mapping exercise. I posted about it today, about value stream mapping. It is one of my favorite tools in the continuous improvement space. It's basically a deep analysis of what a process is, step by step, who does what with what data, when, and who does it get handed off to.
I love that.
And that exercise alone makes it very clear to a business what is happening. It exposes where the bottlenecks are, so where things are inefficient. And it also helps identify what the benefits would be to digitize that process, because when you remove those bottlenecks, you can measure the improvement in cycle, you can measure the amount of rework, and that's going to have value. And so we did that first, and I think that gained a ton of trust. And because we understood their business after that. We really connected with what their business is. And then the next thing we did is we digitized that workflow, but made the UI very easy to see, very intuitive. And instead of worrying about the back end and the logic side of things, which is what we had focused on before, we made the platform look good first.
Nice.
And then added all the processing.
So once a customer like goes through that process, you're not like done with them, right? Like you're available for customer support and everything.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I feel like there's some companies that are like one and done and then they move on and the customers are like, I don't know who to turn to. There's some other companies who are like getting better at that where they're offering like lifetime support, and it's kind of like a friendship or a family type relationship because you got to be successful together. The other thing that you talked about, which I definitely relate to, is burnout. So what happened there? How does that progress?
After the second, well, we had another customer that stopped working with us, and that one was painful. It was a conversation around monetizing a beta that was free.
Okay.
And we didn't have the conversation up front because, hi, I'm afraid of those conversations, and I gotta work on that. But it, we didn't end the relationship. It ended on a very good note.
That's good.
It stopped, and after that, my partners and I, we were 2.5 years into a lease. We've been dumping all this money into a business, and we're kind of panic stricken at this point. Yeah. So we just started chasing anything. And it didn't feel authentic. It wasn't what we were setting out to do in the first place. It was just, what can we do? What can we do to keep this going? And I think by putting a bunch of extra effort onto something that you don't necessarily care about, and you're doing it with the motivation of, oh, I need to pay the bills, that creates a level of stress that doesn't have the reward with it. It's not investing your time in your passion project. It's doing work that doesn't feel good. And it's when it doesn't generate results, it just keeps getting worse and worse. So it kind of creates this spiral towards burnout. And then in parallel to that, right, life's getting busy. The kids are teenagers now, right? Like, my job's getting busy. I'm getting stretch goals. Like, all of these things kind of are happening all at the same time. And you break, like you just stop caring, and you feel this, you're just in survival mode at that point.
Right. So how did you turn it around? Because that can be like really paralyzing, that whole situation. I've had burnout a couple of times, and I remember having a conversation with some of my friends that I met on LinkedIn, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. And they all yelled at me, and I'm so grateful that they yelled at me, because they were like, you're not quitting this. Like, it's a moment, and you are going to push through it, and you're going to be stronger because of it. And they really, like, Emily was the one that shared that book with me, because everything that you just said is really touched on in that book. And she gives you so many good tips on like how to overcome that and how to refocus your strategy so that you're really focusing on what your core values are and what type of clients you want to work with, and how to get those clients to really believe in the product that you're selling. So again, Badass Your Brand, great book. Go check it out. Buy it if you want. But yeah, so like, how did you overcome that moment of burnout? Because it can be a struggle to do it, and if you don't have like a tribe around you like hyping you up and empowering you, it can be really hard to get out of that rut. So what were some of the things that you did?
It's hard, and I tend to mask things even to people close to me. So I don't know that I leveraged a tribe as much as I should have, but just reflecting internally, it was an assessment of where am I spending my time and what can I stop doing, including things that I am passionate about. I had started a newsletter and weekly newsletter. I haven't touched it in months. I had to stop that. I had to stop, with my family. It's like starting to build boundaries.
Yes.
I think, and then at work, it's how do you carve out time to focus so that instead of being interrupted and, in LinkedIn, not posting it, like I had to stop a lot of stuff and kill these expectations that you can handle all of the things.
Yeah.
And then deal with the guilt that comes with that, because that doesn't come without.
Yeah. I'm like totally 100% like relating to everything you just said. And I feel like one of the best pieces of advice that I got from one of my mentors, they asked me, they were like, why do you feel like you have to do all of this? And I'm like, well, because, I'm trying to gain followers. And they're like, okay, but what happens if you lose a follower? Like, what happens when you lose a follower? Someone disconnects with you? How do you react? And initially, I went crazy. Like, I would cry. I would go crazy a little bit. Like, what did I do wrong? Did I offend someone? And I was asking all the questions about like what I did to get them to not want to follow me or like me anymore. And we have to stop doing that, because we're not going to please everyone. We're not going to make everyone happy. Even if we're like the nicest, kindest person in the world, like Mother Teresa,
Yeah.
there's going to always be one person that's not going to vibe with what we're doing and how we're liking it. And I, like you mentioned, boundaries. Like, it's really hard to set those boundaries and stick with them, especially if you're a people pleaser, which I totally am. Like, I love making people happy, and you just have to stop it. So what were some of the things that you were putting in practice to like create those new habits of like maintaining your boundaries? Because it's tough. It's really,
It's
really hard.
tough. And I'm still a work in progress, I would say. I think setting expectation, especially with, my kids, they want me available and accessible when they want me available and accessible. And so rather than get frustrated with them for interrupting me, I say, listen, I am unavailable for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
Unless it's urgent, right? Then they understand the difference. They're older, but setting expectations early. I think when I need to do think work, I need to do it when I'm not going to be interrupted, especially during the day. And so I will carve out time on a Saturday morning to do think work, or I will get up early and do that think work where I can be, truly alone. I think, and then, yeah, I would say those are probably two of the biggest things. Even simple things such as putting your notifications on do not disturb. Your phone can set up different levels of focus mode.
Yep.
So I've got a few different layers of that, of who can get in touch with me when. And then you got to also take time for yourself and what you love. For me, I have two outlets. I take dance class, and I like to go for hikes, and I like to go for walks. And it's, yeah, making sure I do those things. It would be easy to just be like, oh, I'll skip dance class tonight because I have something more important to go on. And now I don't. I mean, we're taking a break because it's summer right now, but
Right. Yeah.
making sure I prioritize those things too.
Everybody thinks I'm crazy when they talk to me and I tell them I wake up at 3:30 every morning to go work out, but it's the only time that I can go, because right now with the family situation, I have to split time with my kids. And I want to be around them when I have them. So like I try to get as much stuff done as early as possible. And then by around noon, I try to take, a couple hour break or whatever so that I can hang out with them for a little bit. And then I'll go back to work. And then when they're sleeping, I'll try to do like 45 minutes of like hard focus work. And then I start the whole pattern all over again. But I mean, if you don't give that time to yourself, and it doesn't always have to be like focused work, like you mentioned dance. If you don't take that time, this coach that I had, her name's Jennifer Watson, she's amazing. She's like, you have to fill your own cup. You have to, because then you can show up for everybody that you love and you're close to. She's like, if you don't fill up your cup, you're not going to be who you are around the people that are close to you. And she's like, it just causes a wicked cycle. So I try to purposely do that stuff all the time and stick with it. With traveling, it's hard though to wake up at 3 a.m. But yeah. So my daughter is still testing my patience though with my boundaries, because I told her, I was like, look, during this time, please don't text me, don't call me, because I'm your mom. I'm going to feel obligated to respond to you.
Right.
And because that's just my mental handicap, where I'm like, oh, it's my daughter, I got to respond. And it's mostly about nothing important. Like, so I told her, I'm like, if I don't respond, it's not because I don't appreciate or love you or any of that. Because she can sometimes think, well, why were you ignoring me? Are you mad at me? No, I'm working.
Yeah.
So I will. And so now I think it's starting to kick in where she's like, okay, I can call her between these times and she won't be as stressed out talking to me. Because it's like she'll call me and just tell me some random things that happened during her day. And I'm like, so you're not bleeding? No, nothing's broken. No. So you're okay. And she goes, yes. And the other thing that makes me like always want to answer her is she called me the other day randomly, and I happened to pick up because I wasn't doing anything like too important, and she almost got in a car accident and she was freaking out. So that's in my head.
Now
Like she calls me or texts me, I feel obligated to answer just so that I know she's okay. But she was like freaking out, and I'm like, you're okay. Like I had to calm her down over the phone. But what sort of advice, because I feel like a lot of and and I'm just speaking from the women's perspective because that's who I am, and I feel like especially in industries that are more male dominated, they have better opportunities to have successful mentorships that really like connect them with the business. So like for me, one of the hardest things that I had to really learn was negotiation, and like how to price my services and do it in a way where like, okay, this isn't necessarily like the final price. Like, let's work together to come up with something that's doable for both of us. If it's like a smaller to medium sized company, because I feel like budgets are going to vary depending on like what they're bringing in. And I feel like men just have those resources easily available to them because it's been male dominated for so long. So like they go golfing or they go out to eat and they're able to have those business conversations. And sometimes it can be intimidating for us to even ask for help. So through your entire journey, and you mentioned something about, finding a partner. I want to talk about that too. What sort of advice then would you give to other women who are kind of on the cusp of wanting to start their own thing? Like, what should be like maybe their top 3 or 4 things to think about right away? Like whether that's, resources they're looking into, people to connect with, or questions they should ask. Like how should they like start it so they're not basically throwing themselves on a fire and trying to figure it out as they go? Because that's what I did.
Yeah. That's a lot to unpack in one question. Yeah. No, I think, if I was just going to say generically in terms of mentorship, it's important to always have a mentor. I think you're never too experienced not to have a mentor. I think that's something that I didn't recognize for a long time. And I think there's 2 benefits from a mentor. One is you get the benefit of them helping you get to that next level. But then the flip side is you get to take advantage of everybody that your mentor knows. Your network grows.
Yeah.
So I think keeping that top of mind and always seeking those opportunities. I don't necessarily think mentors need to be within the same gender all the time. I think like you said, it is natural. There are men that I connect with that, and I have had male mentors in my career and coaches. I mean, they do different things, but for this conversation, I'll use them interchangeably. But in terms of the first priority, The best advice I've been given is to, it came from Heather Monahan. I had her as a mentor for a brief period of time. But look to somebody who is where you want to go and make a connection with them. I think for me, the first person that stood out to me was Paul Van Meter. He, started his software company out of a machine shop, and I reached out to him, and we had a conversation, and he was able to spend time with me to give me advice, and he's been he's still active when and engaging on social media, and I feel like if I were to ask for a conversation, I think that would still be there, but that would be my top advice.
He's really engaging too when he talks to you. Like, you can tell he's listening and he cares, and like, he's such a fantastic human being. And I always get him and Jason mixed up. So Jason has Paperless Parts, and then Paul has Pro Shop. And
yep.
they look very similar.
They do.
So I'm like, I always got them mixed up when I first met both of them, because I was like, wait, no, you're both P and you're both orange, and the way my brain went. But Paul is a very, very knowledgeable human being. He wants to help people, and he's just, he's a great human being in the industry. So kudos to Paul. So then with your partnership, like, how did that come about? Because that's something I like struggle with too. I've had a bunch of people approach me and we're like, how can we collaborate with one another? Like, how does it? And I feel like that's something I'm still trying to work on, is like getting someone really invested in what my core values are, and like being able to have some synergy there. And I have a couple people that I have partnered with and collaborated with, but it's never been on a long-term basis. And I don't know with what I'm doing, it would necessarily be that, but like, how did that whole journey begin, and how did you know you found the right partner?
So I'm glad you said values, because I definitely think that should be the first thing. That's the criteria, right? Like, you may have other ways to add people to consider. The biggest for me at the time was skill set, right? I did not want to invest my time in learning how to do software development. I needed somebody that could do software development. But if you're going to form a partnership with somebody, there needs to be this layer of trust. And so my first partner that I found was actually from, he worked for me. So that was easy. I understood what his capabilities were. But, we both agree that we just want to solve problems, and it's about problems first, not making money, right? We both are very invested in our families. And that was very important. And we wanted to treat people with respect. So like, those core values combined with the skill complement was really important. And then we brought on a third partner, and it's very similar skill set, or not very similar skill set, very similar values. We actually formed a second company called Virtual Leverage, because it was leverage for data and virtual IT solutions we combined together. Our website, you open it up and it's a picture of us, because we want it to be human first.
Right.
So
that's cool. I gotta keep that in mind, because it's hard to like really wonder if people are reaching out to you or wanting to work with you just to get benefits for themselves, or like if they really believe in your mission and like really want to like create something great. So I think that's like one of the issues that I was kind of running into. I was just like, I don't know what a partnership would really look like, or what I would want to achieve with it. So I think that's a great thing for people who want to start a business, and if they're looking to collaborate with someone or partner with someone, they should have some core values. So I'm glad that you were able to answer that. Well, Sara, we are coming up on time, and I just feel like I could talk to you forever about everything that you do. And because I think this is an important conversation, especially for women who, want to push themselves a little bit farther and do something on their own. I think we're at a really exciting time where we're seeing more and more women take bigger risks and are believing more in themselves and are gaining that confidence to be successful business people. And it's really refreshing and exciting to see, because I know a lot of women in the industry that are doing amazing things. And if you're a family person, sometimes that can be a little bit difficult, because it seems like just societally, like we are supposed to be like
The home giver.
everything though. Like, okay, yeah, we worked, but now we come home and we gotta like take care of the kids. We can't really just be like, go to bed. Like,
I will say my one parent advice is employ your children.
yes.
They are capable of doing a lot. They can do dishes. They can, even at an early age, like.
Yes, but there is a thing. I have to look this up because I know I'm gonna mess it up, because my brain is just that way. But if you have a business, you can actually employ your child if they're at a certain age, and you can get like tax benefits from it. So if you pay them like a minimum wage to do something, I think there's a way, but I don't know how that works state by state. I don't know if it's a federal thing
I
or a
can
state
ask my accountant. That
yeah,
sounds
but
interesting.
check that out, because I know in Wisconsin, if I were to hire my daughter to do like small things or whatever, there's some tax benefits to that. And it can go a long way. And then it also helps her out with some savings for her and everything, but she refuses to work with me. So, I mean, that's fine.
An experience.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, I still love her. She's doing her own thing, so that's okay. But I do want to give you a chance. If you have a question for our audience, what would your big ask be? And then I'll ask you my last question after you ask yours.
Oh, that's threw me for a loop. What would be my question for the audience? I think my question would be, if you want to learn more, if you have questions on process improvement, data analytics, please reach out. I'm available on LinkedIn. You can connect with me.
That's awesome. And if you're a woman, please connect with her too, because again, she's part of Women in Manufacturing. She spoke at their summit last year.
I'm speaking at this year's summit too.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
It's called Small Steps, Big Impact. It's about how you can use some like low code, no code tools to really make your job easier. So how you can adopt these technologies, not, on your own.
Yeah, that's awesome. So are you doing it on your own, or are you doing another panel discussion? That's super cool.
No, I'm on my own. This is the first time I'm not sponsored by another company. So
that's awesome. Congratulations. Well, make sure you check out Women in Manufacturing. And if you have availability to attend that summit, I highly recommend you go and attend. It's awesome. And it's so like energizing and just a great time. And everybody there is so nice. And you really do connect with other women, but also really good mentors too. And they have a lot of great success stories. And it's really interesting to see like how very few men attend, but men are welcome. Like I highly recommend any guy in engineering and manufacturing to go, because it's just a fun time, and you learn a lot on how to be a better ally and a better mentor.
I agree. So I definitely agree. Men should definitely attend. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Sara, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you or connect with you? And if they have questions about your business, where should they go?
Yeah, they should reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's really the best place to get in touch with me. I'm happy to connect, have a conversation, or start a conversation there, and we can take it from there.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk after this. Definitely. I'm going to reach out to you sometime this week or probably next week.
Yeah. Give yourself.
Yeah. And we will, I was in Fort Lauderdale, and it was so nice there and so warm, and we were by the ocean, and I just was like in complete awe, because it's been a while since I've been by any massive bodies of water, and it was just so warm and beautiful, and it stormed a couple times. So like my brain was just like, oh, you were on vacation. I was like, no, it was for work. So you got to keep staying active, but it just wants to like shut down and like reminisce about the beach and everything. So it was pretty fun. But definitely we're gonna link up after this so that we can schedule a demo. So if you're tuning in today, thank you. I appreciate all of your comments and your questions, but make sure you stay tuned because we're gonna figure out when we can do a demo with Sara, and hopefully you can bring your partner on too, and you guys can walk us through your software. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Sara, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. Good luck with everything. I hope I can see you at the Women in Manufacturing Summit. I still don't know if that's something I'm going to be able to do this year because I have a couple other things in October, but good luck on your presentation. I know you're going to do great. And to everyone tuning in, again, thank you so much. If you have any questions for us, reach out to us on LinkedIn. And then if you are having a hard time putting some pizzazz in your writing or content, please reach out to me. I'm going to bring up my sponsorship from Z Ink Solutions. We're not your grandmother's writing. We actually have some edge to us, some personality, and we bring the human to engineering and manufacturing. So talk to you guys later. Have a great weekend. Bye. This episode of Mavens of Manufacturing has been sponsored by Z Ink Solutions. Z Ink Solutions. This isn't your grandmother's copywriting service. We provide copywriting and copy editing services that provide impactful text and memorable storytelling for a variety of brands and industries. Contact us today at zinkSolutions.com. That's z-inksolutions.com.